And honestly, it's been a real tonic over the last little while. Just to hear somebody going through the same similar experiences as me. And I have sent that on to all my friends, and we chat about it the weekends about what the podcast had been about, and we found it really useful. So I was delighted when Caroline said that she would join our session tonight. So I'm not going to introduce her. I'm going to let her do that herself in a second. So Caroline, do you want to introduce yourselves, tell us where you're from, and a little bit about your life in Sydney?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for having me on this evening. It's a real honour to be on here. I am Caroline McKenna. I have been in Australia for nearly 5 years. I moved from County Down in Ireland. I'm a teacher, and I have been teaching over here for the whole time I've been here, for the 5 years, in an all-girls private school overlooking the harbour. So it's a bit of a dream job, and it's really lovely to be here this evening.
Thanks, Caroline. So you've been in Sydney for quite a while now, 5 years. It's a similar time to myself. And I know that whenever COVID hit recently, that you, like many people, sort of got into that fear of, should we be here, should we go home? And I know that your sister was here and she went home, and you actually did try to go home but weren't allowed to. What was that like for you? And how are you adjusting to this at the moment? Are you comfortable with being in Sydney, or is it still quite tough?
To be honest, it's been a real struggle. My sister arrived last year when I was going through a hard time. I had just broken up with my boyfriend, who I moved to Australia with and had set up a life in Australia with. So I really just started again over here last year and setting up, and she had only just arrived maybe a few months into the breakup, and she was really the goal for me to keep staying out here. It was so hard doing it alone for that period of time. So when she got here, it was such a relief, and it was just, I can't explain it unless you've had family move to the other side of the world. It's something you forget how much that connection is important to you in your life. And when she was here, it was just lovely to just know that that person was there every morning you woke up, that she was there and she was on the same time zone as you, so you didn't have to check your phone at what time of the day it was at home to call, and to have dinner with her in the evenings and know that no matter what, I wouldn't be alone over here, because you do get periods of loneliness. And she was only here about 10 months and COVID hit, and it was just absolutely terrifying. She's on a work and holiday visa. I'm a permanent resident over here, and she was on temporary work. So as soon as COVID hit, all of that employment really went dry. So my parents said, you need to come home. And I was fine. I'm teaching in a full-time job. COVID was quickly approaching Sydney, but we were adamant that we were staying on teaching, and Scott Morrison was very clear that schools would remain open. So I couldn't really just give up everything. And then things just took a quick turn so quickly, where just within a space of a couple of days, where it was just, Sydney was going into a bit of a lockdown. And it's the first time in nearly 5 years that my mum has rang me and said, you need to come home, because it was unfolding a lot quicker in Ireland. It was quite terrifying. And I think we are the only ones that understand that experience, where we're watching the world fall apart from the other side of the world, and it hadn't hit us yet. So it was that terrifying thing of just like a domino effect, where you knew it was coming, but it hadn't arrived yet. And when my mum told me, you need to come home, I was getting so angry with her. I was saying, Mum, absolutely not. I have a job here, I have a life here. I can't just give all of this up. But I didn't realize just how extreme it was. But my family, we have a lot of nurses in our family in Ireland, and they were seeing the real extent on the front line of just how bad it was. So long and behold, I went into school the next morning, and the principal literally over the tannoy, we were in the middle of lessons, turned around and said, school's closing, pack up your bags, kids, it's time to go home. And I was in the middle of teaching my year 7s who've just come out of primary school. They've only been out of primary school a couple of months, and they're getting this like historical moment over the tannoy, basically saying you're going home to learn in isolation. and they were crying. I was trying not to cry. I was thinking the world's ending, and it was a terrifying moment. So then that's when I went to my principal and said, okay, look, if this is what's happening, I can't be on my own. My sister has a flight booked. I will literally be on my own in Australia if anything happens. And she allowed me to go home because we would be teaching online on the computer. So I got a flight booked, a one-way ticket. It was $4,500. All of the flight prices went up. And I had to pack up my whole belongings within 24 hours. It was a real surreal moment where I didn't know if I wanted to be at home, but I needed to get home. I found time to go to head office and get my hair done. Not very much time to go, but I had to say goodbye to a lot of people and leave all of my belongings here. I knew that I could come back as I was a resident. I was leaving my apartment as it was, but it was one of those moments where you were like, I felt like I'd been watching that Chernobyl series and felt like I was in Chernobyl, where you were literally moving and you didn't know if you'd ever come back to your place. And that morning my flight was cancelled because the borders closed to Abu Dhabi. So the flight was just called off, and I was faced with the reality of being in Australia. But at that stage it was with my sister. And we tried again to get another flight, and then Scott Morrison brought in the law of permanent residents are not allowed to leave the country. I filed for an exemption form 4 times. I called the embassy. I begged and pleaded. I went to the doctor and asked for a medical certificate to say that I feel like I would be depressed in Australia by myself. It was declined every time. So I faced the reality of saying goodbye to my sister and facing the pandemic completely alone. It was terrifying.
Well, that sounds like so challenging. And I know I was in a similar sort of position at the time as well. It was like quite happy, quite settled in Sydney, but you just saw this like mass exodus on Irish around Sydney. Yeah. Everybody selling up their furniture, everybody packing up, and it just was like, well, if they're doing it, then maybe I should be doing it. And I know, yeah, completely such a scary time. And it really, I think because we were seeing it in Ireland and seeing their measures, and Australia wasn't taking it as seriously, and it was really, you kind of had one foot in both countries, which is really challenging.
I think people realise, you know, when you are at the other side of the world, how important your friendships are and, you know, housemates are. So whenever, like, I was literally trying to explain to my family at home, I am completely on my own. My housemate had moved out. She had gone back to be with her family. My sister was gone. I was teaching from home. You couldn't even though you could go out and go for walks and stuff, nobody wanted to see you because it was scary to be around people. So people were really keeping to themselves. So it was one of those moments where I just thought, well, I either sink or swim here, and I just had to do something.
And you swam very well, because you decided to set up the podcast around that time.
Yeah.
That something, had it been on the cards for a while? What inspired you around that time to launch it?
I have always been a part of the Irish community over here since doing the Rose of Tralee 2 years ago. And when I did the Rose of Tralee, the Sydney Rose, I didn't realise to the extent what an Irish community there was out here. I think you can get stuck in a bit of a bubble out here and, you know, just stick with your friends. And I didn't realise just how big of a family there was out here. So whenever I entered that, I just thought, well, this is something I don't want to let go of when it was all over. So I then got in touch with the Lightball Committee, and I've been working with them for the last 3 years now. We have a black tie event every year to raise money for Batir and Pieta House. So it's just things that I've always wanted to do. I'm very confident with speaking because I'm standing in front of the classroom most days, not knowing what I'm teaching, pretending I know, so I fake it until I make it. And I just thought, from my own experience, you know, it's such a challenging experience over here, and people only see one side of it. They see your amazing pictures on Instagram, and they just say, you know, you've got the world at your feet, you've got a brilliant life over there. But there are some really tough days, and I just know from my experiences there's a lot of loneliness, and I just thought, if I can help one person, I'll be happy. And I just never expected what would come from it, so it's been mad.
Yeah. So how many How many downloads are you on now?
26,000. Honestly, I just don't even know where to go with that. It's scaring me a wee bit. I remember the first night I put out the first episode. I'd been thinking about it for months, and I was talking about it and really getting myself geared up for it. And then I would go to bed at night and go, oh God, I can't be doing that. I'm not putting that out there. No way. So when I eventually put out the first episode, I don't think I slept for about 3 days. And I remember getting excited when I got 65 downloads. I thought, oh, 65 downloads, that's great. That's all my friends. And the next thing, it just took off. And it went from just being in Sydney and a couple of people around my hometown to Hong Kong, Canada, Dubai. There was one in Africa. I need to work out who that was. I don't know anyone in Africa. And it's just gone global. It's unbelievable.
That's amazing. And I really do think it's because people relate so much, and especially with everything that everyone's going through at the moment as well. It's just nice to hear, as you said, social media shows all the shiny stuff that we're putting out into the world, but it's nice to be honest sometimes, and you realize that a lot more people are feeling the same way as you are. What's the reaction been like from people? Or people getting in touch? Or
Yeah, I have to put my phone down at times because the phone goes off a lot. I've had thousands of messages. It's only been up and running, I think, about 5 weeks, and I couldn't believe to the extent of people just messaging me and saying, I can't believe how much your podcast relates to me and what I'm going through. And not everyone is living abroad in these situations. Some people are just feeling a bit lost in their life. Some are just going through a breakup. Some people are just living in Liverpool, 1 hour flight away from home, and just feeling that loss of connection. And it's been lovely. The majority has been girls, but I've had so many fellas message as well. And I just didn't expect them to say, thank you for saying that, you can get down over here and it's okay to feel like that. But it was really hard to do whenever I said it, and actually admitted that, I went through a real bout of depression last year, and it's a real scary thing to break down those walls and tell people. But like I say, working for the Light Ball and being a mental health advocate, I felt like I wasn't doing it justice if I didn't be honest and just pretended that my life was rosy.
Yeah. And you've been very open in your podcast talking about your experiences with your mental health last year. For those that haven't maybe listened to that episode, do you want to tell a little bit about that experience of being away from home and how you got through that?
Yeah, of course. So like I said, I moved to Australia and I was in a relationship, and a very long-term relationship, nearly 6 years. And I had my whole life set up here. We got our permanent residency in our first year. So my future was planned. I knew what I was doing. I was going home this year to get married and the whole works, I just had it all set out in stone. So when it fell apart last year, my whole world fell apart. And I don't think people realize to the extent, even if you don't go through a breakup out here, if you're in a relationship, just how hard it can be. Because you don't just have your family to go down the road to and have a cup of tea with if you need it, just time out. And it can be a really lonely situation to be in. So when that happened, I had 2 options because we were living together, and it's like a divorce. It's really tough when you're living abroad. And I had the choice to either just get on a flight and go home to my mummy, which is what I wanted to do, or to go home when I was ready to go home. And I just had too much left in me to give up Australia for someone else. I wanted to be able to go home on my terms. So it was, I can't describe how hard it was. And when I think back on it, it's a really dark time where I struggled to get out of bed a lot. It was knowing that I had to get into school every day. I teach high school students, and they're going through their HSC, which is A-level leaving cert. So it wasn't a case of me just saying, I can't get up today and go to work, or I'm going to ring in sick. Those kids needed me. So not only was I getting up and really dragging myself into work, I was putting on a mask every day to go in there. And as soon as I'd walk through those school gates, the Miss McKenna smile would come on, and I would be able to give it my all from 9 a.m. to 3 o'clock, and then just break down again. And it went through a cycle of, you know, putting that mask on and then coming home in the evening and just crashing and burning and not sleeping all night. And it was an awful cycle. And I talk about, you know, how fitness is my escape whenever I'm feeling down and when I'm depressed. And it's always the thing I go to. But I got into such a cycle of insomnia that I couldn't do that. So I had to, you know, after, I think I did for about 8 weeks of going into school and literally crying the whole way on the phone to my mum and getting to the school gates and drying the tears and getting on with the day. And then I just had to actually surrender and say, I'm not okay and I can't keep doing this. So I went to my principal one day and just said, look, I'm not okay. I'm in a really bad way here. I've been living on a floor, a blow up mattress for the past 6-7 weeks, and I'm living out of a suitcase, and I don't feel like I'm able to do this anymore. And she said to me, the scariest thing was, she said, I had no idea. Like, you come in every day and you perform, and that's what's scary about mental health is, you know, we can really bluff people. So I went home for a couple of weeks, the toughest few weeks of my life, because it was the easiest option was to just stay at home. But I knew that there was just too much more to give in Australia, and I wasn't ready to give it up. So that flight coming back to Australia was the hardest, and trying to set up all over again. You don't expect that to happen 5 years in, to start all over again. So I'm still here.
And what would, if someone was, you know, struggling at the moment for whatever reason, and I suppose putting on that brave face, but deep down we're feeling that way, what would your advice be to them?
The first thing is to say you're not okay, to talk to someone, whoever it is. I felt like comfortable enough to say to my mum, but it's funny, I didn't feel comfortable enough to like say to my brother or my dad. You know, you need to find someone that you can talk to that won't judge and won't say, oh God, what are you thinking? Or won't give you the wrong directions either. Like, I had a lot of people that when I said I wasn't okay, they just said, just stay at home. Do you know, there's no point in you going back to Australia, and you want people to work with what you want in your life. So I had to make sure that I was telling the right people that were there to support me and not try and steer me in the direction that they thought was best. But I had to be honest as well, Roisin, and like, there was, talking to my family was one thing, but I needed strategies. I needed help to get out of bed every morning, to build my confidence up again. Like, I lost so much confidence from the breakup, and I just felt really like I had to find friends again. And it was just an awful time in your life where you just feel like vulnerable. So I did reach out for support, and it's one of those things where you feel like you're weak for asking for external help. But it's the best thing that I could ever tell anybody to do. And I was lucky with my school. We have counselling support. So it's through the EAP, where you can get counselling sessions, anonymous counselling sessions, anywhere you want, like close to your work or close to where you live. And I just went to a counsellor, and it can be tough as well, because you might find one counsellor who doesn't work for you. It can take a while to find the one that suits. But I needed strategies for someone to tell me, okay, this is what you're going to do when you start to feel yourself going into that dark frame of mind again, where you are overwhelmed, or you feel like you're not good enough, or you're not loved enough, or any of those things. So it was a long process along the way, but it's something that I couldn't recommend more. And even to this day, you know, I feel so much better. But every so often I just check in with my counsellor and say, you know, okay, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I'm doing. But also just having a routine in place is really important in those situations. I have to start every morning with 10 minutes meditation. And before the breakup, if you had told me that I was meditating for 10 minutes, I thought I would have lost the plot. But the importance of just slowing down your breathing before you start your day. And it can be such a small thing like the Headspace app, where it's guided meditations, and it just helps you manage situations throughout your day. And like, I put it up on the Instagram page the other day, my oats went all over my bag the other day, right? Like, I brought my breakfast into work and my oats fell all over the bag, and those types of things used to ruin my day and probably the week with my mood. And I kind of just saw it and I was like, whatever, it's, you know, I'll go and get something in Woolworths. But like, it just makes such a difference doing that bit of meditation. doing something for yourself every day. Don't just allow work to consume you. And then in the evening times, I get my journal out every single evening and write down what I'm grateful for that day and where I want my life to go. So having objectives out there. I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins, and he talks about the mind and how important the mind is. And, you know, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. And he has this famous story of Roger Bannister. I don't know if you've ever heard of Roger Bannister. He's the famous man that broke the 4-minute mile. No one had ever done it before. And in 1954, he broke the 4-minute mile by visualizing in his head, not by training, physically training for the mile, but by visualizing in his head that he had won it and he had done it and he broke the world record. And the next year, 4 people did the exact same thing. So if you can believe you can do something and you change your mindset, then you can do anything you want in the world. So whenever I do feel like I get into that mindset of, oh God, what am I doing? And I don't know where I'm going with my life, I have to bring it back to feeling, right, where am I going with my life and what do I want? And that's how I do it. You really have to, it's an everyday process. And I talk about your mental health being like a garden that you have to nurture and water and take care of every single day. It's not a quick fix. And it's not something that you work on and say, okay, I'm better. You have to do it every single day.
Oh, that's brilliant. Caroline, thank you so much for that, for sharing that personal experience and for actually giving people some practical things they can try out as well. I have a few more questions, but I'm just going to put it out there to see if anybody else has questions, because I feel like I'm hogging Caroline a little bit. If you've got questions, please feel free to just come off mute, or you can pop it into the chat box because Ronan's keeping an eye on that for us.
Hi, thanks for sharing all of that. And I think just from listening to your story, and like I came back here the second time I came back on my own and had to make a life here. So I relate to a lot of what you're saying. But one good thing I just think I found was a good suggestion that, yes, have your Irish community, but that can always be transient. There's always a time where people will have kids, they'll go home, whatever. And what I learned the second time when I came back, and a lot of my friends had got married and started to have kids, I didn't have the scene that going out. So I'd be connecting with people who are just traveling, and then they'd go. And then I just took myself right out of that scene and built a life. It was lonely and it was tough at first, but it teaches you a lot that you can survive. And I think when you go back and look on this time, you'll realize when times get tough again, you'll think, shit, I went through that and I survived.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good builder when we're here. As much as it's shit to go through, it does teach us a lot. And I always go back to that time and thought, well, no, I stepped back. I did make friends. And I think it's important also to make your Australian friends, be that there's so many nationalities, but people you know who are staying here and have families here, and maybe parents that you get to know, because I think that's what we miss as well. And that's what I like about some of our Irish communities, having our elders, like the guys from the Irish radio and that are on our committee and different things. And I think it's a good thing for us all to remember that step out of your community as well, as much as you need your Irish community. Make sure that you don't just have a broader thing. I think that's how I've learned to survive over here at times, as well.
Yeah.
But it's great that people are sharing now and doing these podcasts, because there was nothing like that before. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and it's such an important point that you say, and something I talk about in the podcast. And being a permanent resident, so many people come and go, and you do get to the stage where you find it too hard to say goodbye to everybody. And I joke often about, the second question after asking someone their name is, what visa are they on? Because it's too hard to say goodbye. And you're exactly right, branching out. And I have a lot of Australian friends here. We like to go to the AFL at the weekends and stuff. And you really do need to try not to stick to that bubble. So thank you so much. That's exactly what we're getting for.
And I'm not very good with these podcasts. So how do we get on is it on Facebook, or how do?
You can either, if you have Instagram, it's on @A County Down Under, the link, or if you search in Apple iTunes, you will find a County Down Under, or Spotify, or anywhere that does podcasts, you'll find it.
Is that YouTube as well, or no? That's not
on YouTube. It'll be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and I think there's like Google. There's every avenue. I don't know.
Yeah, we can pop it up on the ISA page for you, Lorraine, as well.
That'd be good. Yeah.
There.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Really clever name, Caroline, as well. Has anybody else got any questions for Caroline? I might just, I just had another question I was interested in asking you, Caroline. Today you shared really openly again on your Instagram that you were struggling with homesickness today. Is that something that you struggle with on and off, and how do you kind of shake yourself out of that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes I think, I've only started this Instagram page and I feel like 99% of it is sad. So I'm like, oh, Caroline, cheer yourself up a bit for the people. But it's just the time that we're living in. You know, it's just such an I don't know, like an unknown time. We don't know where we're going with this. And I have never, you know, you get homesick throughout the years. We all know you get that wee moment or day where you're thinking, oh, I miss home, or I wish I was at home for that dinner. Or I always find Sundays can be a day of homesickness, but that passes very quickly. But just with everything that's going on, you know, with everything going on in Melbourne, I feel so sad for everybody in Victoria and all the expats that are out there. It is starting to wear on people, and I am the most positive person for everyone else, but I do feel that it's taken its toll for everyone, because there isn't much to look forward to. And I know that we know if we really wanted to, we could get home, but it's not knowing if you can get back. So it's that fear of, yes, you know, you can fly home if needs be, but it's that 2-week isolation that is killing everyone, and that makes us know that we can't go anywhere. So I think today was a really tough day. It was Monday in school. We've run out of things to talk about in staff room. Nobody's doing anything with their day. So it's tough. We just seem to be talking about the news a lot and all the rest. But I think with the first wave that we got, and I was completely by myself in isolation, I just turned off the news and I tried to focus on me and try and better myself during that time, and really stuck at it. But I think because the second one has come around, people are thinking, oh God, is this ever going to end, you know? But what I've realized throughout the years and through my experiences, and just like what Lorraine says, you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger throughout the years, is you just have to shake it off, because you're not doing yourself any favors. There's nothing we can do about this situation. And, you know, like again, what I say about Tony Robbins, he says, you know, about it's all in your mindset. You can choose to either go on the highway to success or down a dirt path of depression. So I just have to shake myself out of it. If I'm feeling that way, I'm thinking, okay, I need to get up. I need to go for a walk. I need to put on upbeat music. I need to be, you know, looking forward to the small things, like what I'll watch on TV this evening. I'll do something nice for myself and put something nice on Netflix, or cook myself a really nice dinner, and just be excited for the little things rather than the big milestones. And just know that for everyone that's going through something at the minute, just imagine those reunions. And I know, Roisin, you're having a tough time with the family wedding that's meant to be happening this month, but just think, when we all get back together, we will never ever take any of this for granted again. So we just have to allow ourselves to be sad for that small period of time, and then get up again. And I know for those who are suffering and find that, you know, it's taken over, and it's not just a moment of sadness, but it's a long period of it, to recognize that and reach out for help. You know, don't let it take over, and don't just think, oh, I'm just sad because of what's going on. You know, allow yourself to feel how you feel. And if you're still struggling a couple of weeks on, reach out for support.
Yeah, it's so important. I think sometimes people think that because everybody's going through this at the moment, that like that doesn't justify them to feel any worse than anybody else, and they can't reach out for help. But we have to remember that, you know, everybody's ability to cope and everybody's life circumstances are going to be different. So it's really okay to ask for help if you need it. I realize that we're on time now, so I'm going to give anybody else want to ask another question. We might be able to keep Caroline for a few extra minutes.
Just while we're waiting for the questions to come through, there's some lovely comments coming through, Caroline. Inspirational. Thank you so much for sharing. Absolutely great story. And Caroline, I want to add as well, that was such an inspirational story. Thank you for sharing so openly with the community, and also the very practical steps. Thank you for being so open with us all and sharing so beautifully your personal story as well. And you've created such a positive mindset around the experience as well. So thank you very much, Caroline.
Thank you.
All right, we might just leave it there. Thanks, as Ronan said, thanks so much, Caroline, for sharing your story and for the podcast, which is really helping people get through. Lorraine's just mentioned there about the 10 sessions that's available for Medicare, which is true. So for those people that have Medicare, if you do want to speak to somebody, there is that support available from the government if you get a referral from the GP. If anybody did find any of this content a little bit upsetting, or they want to speak to a member of the ISA about where to get support, they can contact us. Won't be me, it'll be or the team in the office, and everything's completely confidential. We can help with referrals and also connecting you to services and an Irish counsellor as well. So thank you so much to everybody for joining this evening. We will put the link to Caroline's podcast. If you haven't heard any of them, how many? You've got about 6 or 7 so far up?
7. There's one going out tomorrow. I don't know where I'm going to find the time this evening to do that amongst the schoolwork, but we'll find time.
Okay. So you've got a full week to listen to catch up to the up-to-date ones, but honestly, as an Irish person here, I really think they're really helpful, so hopefully you all can check those out. Thank you. I'm sure we've got a few new faces tonight. Caroline attracted in the big crowds for us. So we run this every month on the first Monday of the month. We're the Irish Support Agency. We're based in Sydney, but we cover New South Wales, and if you're joining us from other areas in Australia, we have partner agencies across Australia as well. So if you need any details or how to connect to those, you can get in touch and we'll refer you on. And as I said, if you ever need any support for your mental health or any kind of practical stuff while you're in Australia, let us know and we can help you with that. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Caroline, you got some lovely comments coming through. People saying, can't wait to sign up to the podcast. Feel very upbeat now. Thank you, Caroline. Amazing as always. Best podcast ever. Look forward to new podcasts every week. Thank you, Caroline. Makes me feel closer to home. Thanks.
I'm in the wrong career. I need to quit my school job.
You've got a new calling, Caroline. Fantastic job, Roisin, as well. Great questions as well.
Yeah, thanks, Roisin.